In this episode of the Sam Oldham podcast, I'm joined by Sarah Voss. She represented Team Germany at 2 Olympic Games in Tokyo and Paris just last year, and at the 2022 European Gymnastics Championships, she won a bronze medal with the women's team. Sarah, thank you for joining me. Just to start off with, can you tell me a little bit about your life at the moment? You know, we're 1 year into a brand new Olympic cycle. You competed for Germany out in Paris as an individual, which traditionally, you know, in the recent past, Germany has always qualified a team, so I'm sure that was quite a unique experience. But what does your training look like at the moment? Are you healthy? And what are your goals for the rest of 2025?
So hello, and I'm very, very happy and very honored to be here and to be speaking on your podcast. Thank you for inviting me. This year, or the past year, has been a very, very challenging one. So I don't know how much you knew about the journey I had towards the Olympics, but I got recently, or 1 year ago, I got diagnosed with Lyme disease. Okay. So I had a very strange beginning of 2024, where I had a lot of fatigue, a lot of pain, joint pain. I had a stiff neck. I had fevers, very much didn't know what to do at some point in my preparation. I was pretty much on a very good road towards the Olympics because, as you said, I qualified as an individual. I had like 1 year of preparation ahead, and still at 1 year preparation every month. It has been a very big struggle. So not knowing what is going on with my body, not knowing why I don't respond as usual to my preparation towards competitions. And pretty much in June, we had a diagnosis of Lyme disease, which is caused by a tick, and was not something I had like a recent thing, like I hadn't had a bite or something, but I had those bacteria maybe for a long time in my body, in my system. But they didn't quite break out, I would say. And as preparation went extremely hard, and I really got onto my limits, the bacteria kind of spread, I would say. And also I had co-diagnosis with mononucleosis. Okay. So I had a really tough time preparing for the Olympic Games in 2024. So I straight up after my diagnosis went to hospital for 3 to 4 weeks and had antibiotics injections every day. And then I went to training, which was not that good, to be honest, but I had that goal, that dream of the Olympic Games. I wanted to be perfectly prepared, or even as prepared as I could, in the challenge of having those 2 diseases. And coming up to the Olympic Games, it was a challenge. I tried my very best. I knew I could have done better. I knew there was much more potential in my gymnastics than I showed. But I also qualified for the all-around final, still with 1 fall on balance beam. And I nearly did my full potential in difficulty. But after the all-around final, which I started with having a little bit fever and joint pain and everything like that, so it was also kind of a struggle. But looking back, I'm kind of proud I did it. I'm kind of proud I still went. But this past year has been a very challenging one. For now, I'm in preparation. I was not able to do any competitions, any training camps, any high training load, because I suffered a lot under those 2 diseases for the last 6 months of 2024 and also the first 6 months of 2025. But I'm very happy that my body responds on a better and that I can hopefully improve on that. And so this my journey for now.
Wow. I mean, Sarah, that is the most incredible story. And, my knowledge of Lyme disease is somewhat limited. But am I right in thinking that once you have Lyme disease, you have it for life? And you
Yes.
have to and do you have to manage that with medication all the time? And does that medication look like antibiotics? Does it have a similar effect? Because, if you ever get ill as an athlete, and it's very common to get ill as an athlete in the build up to a competition because your immune system is so weak and the stress levels are so high, taking antibiotics is terrible for high level sport and preparation because you're so fatigued. So firstly, what a strange thing to be diagnosed with. I imagine you had, of all the things you would have guessed it wouldn't have been that. So what was that like? Because that must have seemed very strange to have been like, what, Lyme disease? And then I imagine you're trying to think back to when maybe you would have been bitten by a tick and what that looks like. And also, what's it like training on essentially antibiotics all of the time?
The road towards the diagnosis was a very bumpy road, I would say, because I had those symptoms that were very strange for over 1 year prior to being diagnosed. So I had, it started off with feeling fatigue all the time. It was like I couldn't recover as good as on the past. And also, it felt like I could sleep for hours and I wouldn't recover as much or as good. And then in late, I would say October, November, right after 2023 World Championships in Antwerp, I was very sick all the time. I had like fevers. I had like a pain in my throat. I was fatigued all the time. And in December, I got an ear infection. And this was also strange because, I hadn't had in mind to have an ear infection like years. And also in January, February, my knee had swollen so much. I can send you pictures afterwards. It had swollen so much. It was like double the size. And this was strange also. It was warm. I didn't fell on it. I didn't had any other injuries before on my knee, and also no bad landings at that time. Still, we made adjustments. I didn't jump as much. I didn't have those flight elements like push half on bars because those were the elements I sometimes landed on my knee. And we skipped that. And even though we skipped those, it hadn't got any better. So we also injected in my knee. So we had the liquor pulled out like a few times, and still it's gotten swollen every time. And then after that, it started with like weird joint pain, weird stiff neck. I had also pain in my jaw. I had terrible headaches. I couldn't sleep that much. I had like night sweats. And also coming into training, it started off quite far into the diagnosis, I would say, or in this road, that I stood up on the beam and I had those crazy feelings of not being able to have this, I would say, balanced feeling. I was like dizzy at that time, very much and very often. And also with jumping on the floor, I had so much neck pain and so much headache that I couldn't jump properly. It was a very strange and weird feeling. And also this joint pain was crazy high at that moment. And I was like, okay, that's preparation. I know preparation is tough. And I spoke to my coaches and they said, okay, let's go down in intensity. Let's go down in everything around it. And we did, but it hadn't got any better. And also I had a racing heartbeat. I had sweats all the time. And it was crazy. I even had to throw up several times because sometimes I even couldn't digest food that good. And I had food intolerances that I haven't had before. And so in June, We had blood analysis. I had blood analysis before, but we haven't checked on like Lyme disease.
Okay.
But we have checked everything else. And after several treatments and several blood analysis, one doctor came up to me and said, "Well, I have maybe an opinion on that. Let's check for Lyme disease." And as we checked it, we had the diagnosis. It was Lyme disease. And it was crazy because I haven't heard before of it. And also, as you said, I hadn't had in mind having a tick bite or anything like this quite previously. But we treated it with antibiotics, as I said, for several weeks in a hospital. And I felt that it was working on me, so I hadn't had that fever anymore, and the joint pain quite went away. But it was also a critical situation because I chose to still train on that, and it's not that good of an idea to train on antibiotics, I know. But it was like 3 to 4, 5 weeks maybe before the Olympic Games, and as I said, I was qualified as an individual, and I really wanted to start because if I hadn't started, it wouldn't be a German athlete replacing me. It would have been in a whole different country.
Okay.
So I was very happy to have this opportunity, and I straight went for it. But as you know, at the Olympics, we have a no-needle policy. So everything I could do there was to cure the pain. So it was, I had to really balance my training sessions. I really had to sometimes skip training sessions because I was too fatigued, too much in pain for that, or even got fever. And I really had to focus on recovery as much as possible. And still, I got fevers and I got very bad body feeling on all-around final. And yeah, it was something I also didn't want to quit on. But for now, or looking back, it wasn't quite the best decision for my recovery and for my health.
And, listening to that story, Sarah, for some reason, it reminded me a little bit of when I lived with my grandfather for 10 months. And he was telling me and my grandma that something was really wrong with him. And we just kept telling him, like, listen to the doctors know best, they're saying you're okay. But he had like a gut feeling that there's something wrong. And it wasn't until after the 10 months that he was diagnosed with cancer, like a week after I moved out of living with him. And I was like, you should always trust somebody's gut feeling. How difficult was it mentally knowing that there's something seriously wrong here? But I'm sure you had people around you saying, look, it must just be that you're tired and that you're fatigued and you're stressed. But in your head, you're going, no, this isn't right. What was the mental battle like during that period of not having a diagnosis? And to everybody else, it just looks like maybe, no, you're getting a little bit older now and you can't handle the training. And what was that like?
It was extremely frustrating because I knew, as you said, there was something off with my body. I think every gymnast or even every athlete has known its own body for years. And also we know how far we can go with our bodies. And I know preparation is hard. I know it's frustrating at some point. And I know that getting your routines back is a stressful one. But I also knew that it quite didn't felt like it used to feel to be in this preparation. And I know also for this knee swelling, which was unlikely at that moment, that something is quite off with my immune system, not only with like my joints or something with my knee, but I had crazy symptoms like this neck pain, and this neck pain went straight into my jaw. And sometimes I had this brain fog where I really haven't had the opportunity to really find my words. I have had struggles with communicating well. This was a very strange one for me because I felt like I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't like get along with a few things at university and a few things in training. So I was really forgetting a lot of things and I was really in survival mode kind of. And I fought so much to get attention for this topic and attention for my symptoms, because they were quite off. They were like with everything, that the doctors even said, well, you have everything. Can you just tell me what exactly do you feel with your body? And I said, well, it's like neck pain, it's like headaches, but also my knee is swelling. Also, this is hurting. And he was like, okay, that's extremely strange. They couldn't really decide on what they should test next. And with like this one doctor really focusing on, well, maybe it's something with the immune system. We also checked for mononucleosis, which was also part of the game at that time, which is at itself really frustrating. But also with this Lyme disease checked, I was feeling relieved because I really had a diagnosis. But then on the other side, they were like, okay, well, now you have to get along with it. And now we have to check, not monthly, but at that time monthly, how it's going and how the bacteria are active or inactive at that time. And so I had to have antibiotics right before Olympics and also right after the Olympics. And then my immune system really crashed down because, with antibiotics and training and Olympic preparation and everything going around, I was at my worst, really at my worst, and my body wasn't functioning right. My mind as well. I was frustrated because of my devastating performance, which was a great one at that time, but not something I had in mind before going into the Olympic Games. I really wanted to show the best version of myself. That's always something I try to improve on, and not too much in comparing against my competitors, but against myself and a version of me of the year before. And I couldn't keep up with this one, and this was also very frustrating because my first Olympic Games also didn't went like planned. After that, and doing another antibiotic treatment and having to go also 6 months with those crazy symptoms and not having much of sleep and not feeling that well, it was also a very strange mental one, which also broke me down a few times.
I mean, that is just the most crazy story. I've never heard of that from another gymnast, so I can't imagine there's even anyone else you can talk to that has been in a similar position, that is a gymnast that has had Lyme disease and prepared for an Olympic Games, so the highest level that you can get to in our sport of gymnastics. What does life look like right now then, Sarah? You told me that you'd already trained this morning. Is it a case of you're just adjusting to your new normal and learning to manage this Lyme disease and the other disease that you have? Is there any kind of hope that in the future maybe these symptoms will subside to the point that you can go back to normal? What does that look like?
So for now, I'm very grateful for where I'm at the moment, because like in winter, I was really mentally so down. I couldn't even think of a normal life anymore because it was so frustrating not knowing what I can do and what I can improve on, because it felt like I was failing at so many parts of my life, because I was failing in gymnastics. I couldn't keep up to my full potential. I couldn't keep up with university. I even had to quit, we say, student job at the time with FISA World University Games. I don't know if you heard of this one.
Yep.
I was a part of it as a working student, and I really loved this job, but I felt like I couldn't keep up with it, and I really had to focus on my health. And still I was feeling so empty, and I was feeling so frustrated with myself. I beat up myself for not working properly anymore and not being able to show up and do my day-to-day routine and have a smile on my face, because I couldn't keep up with this. I was very down. And the first 6 months of 2025 were really focusing on what I can improve on and what I can adjust. So I was working with a nutritionist. I was working with some other doctors, not working with antibiotics anymore, but with everything around. We tested my blood. We tested like everything, and I adjusted my nutrition. I adjusted my sleep schedule. I really had to focus on that one for several months because, I was so much in the spiral of like negative feelings and a negative body feeling that I really was sleeping a lot of the time, and I really needed to sleep a lot of the time. And I also worked with sports psychologists a lot because performing at that high level, like Olympic Games and World Championships and European Championships, it's so frustrating to having no control over your body anymore and no control about like preparing for something. It felt like I couldn't control anything, and I really had to listen to my body, but I also couldn't keep up with the science. And this was a very strange one because I really had to relearn my body and relearn about recovery and relearn about important goals and things I want to emphasize on. And now I'm very, very grateful that my body is getting stronger and that I really improve on recovery and really improve on my performance. Still, I'm not near any high-level gymnastics, but I am very happy that I can improve on my strength and improve on certain little things, and I really am looking for building up to that and finding joy in movement again, because looking back 1 year ago or even half a year ago, my body was so much against me, also my mind, that I really struggled with moving at all because it always resulted in having me fevers and being knocked out for a few days. And that's why I'm very happy that my body's able to do like basic human things again, and do strength training and going to the gym a few times. And I'm really happy if I can work up on that.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're in a great place, Sarah, because just listening to your story there, I'm sure that mentally that has been a real challenge to pull yourself out of some of those dark holes that you've found yourself in. That's a very chaotic chapter of your journey. Let's go back to the beginning when that was nowhere near your front view mirror and you were very much getting into gymnastics because you loved it and you found the sport. What did that look like in the beginning, Sarah? And what was the system in Germany and the women's side of the sport that you grew up within?
It's funny that you say system, because I was very much the out of the system person.
Okay.
I really went straight ahead on my own journey. But looking back, I started gymnastics at the age of like 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
Because my mom found myself being like more on my hands, doing handstands, cartwheels than ever being on my 2 own feet. And she pretty much put me into gymnastics to really get this energy bust little girl a little bit more calm. And I really enjoyed it. And I was in a local gymnastics club at that time.
Okay.
And they came up to me and my mom and said, well, I think with all the energy she has up inside her and all the joy she feels with gymnastics, let's try to go on a like elite level. And my mom was laughing at that time, I know, because she said, well, guys, she's like 4 years old. What do you have in mind? What about elite gymnastics? What is this? Because my family is not used to doing high performance sports.
Okay.
And still, they put me into a higher training club, which was funny to say, the one in Wetzlar. I grew up in Frankfurt, so the one in Wetzlar is where Fabian Hambuchen trained at that time. And I got introduced to him, and he was preparing for 2004 Athens Olympic Games at that time.
Yeah.
And I saw him training. I saw him with his dad, which is his coach. And I think this was the first time I got introduced to elite gymnastics and also the Olympic dream. And it catched me. I really wanted to be as good as him. I really wanted to achieve this Olympic dream. And I remember a few training sessions alongside him, watching him, being in awe and looking up to him. And also on the other side, I was a very straightforward little girl, because I remember one time where he had a very bad training session, that I went up to him and said, "Well, Fabian, I guess you had a really, really shitty training today." And he was so frustrated at the moment, and then looked up to me and said, "Yeah, little kiddo, you're right." And this was like an icebreaker, and also very funny, because he was doing his final exams also during or later on after the Olympics, and my mom was teaching him math, which was also very funny at that time. And after a while, I was like 6 years old. We moved to Cologne, or near Cologne, because my mom got a new job. So the whole family moved. And then after a few club changes and experiencing everything around Cologne, I went up staying in Cologne.
Okay.
And got introduced to my now coach, Shana Polyakova. And she was at the Olympic Games in 2004 and also 8 and 12. And in 2008 and 12, she was the coach of Oksana Shusevitina, which is also a very funny story, because in preparation towards 2016 and also 2021, I trained a lot with Oksana, because she's always stayed a long time in Germany as well.
Yeah.
The main reason was, as her son was born, he needed also treatments that were only affordable or manageable in Germany. And he's my age, so kind of grew up together. He was in a gym a lot of the time, and I was training with his mom. And in 2010, I would say, I started to have very serious training sessions with my coach, and I was also telling her that I was aiming for the Olympic Games in 2016. At that time, I would have been 16 years old.
Okay.
And she also looked up to me and smiled and said, "Well, kiddo, there's a lot of work you have to do. And I don't think you're ready to do all this effort for your dream." But she underestimated me. I was a very hardworking little girl with big dreams, but also kind of chaotic, kind of not the girl with the perfect technique or being as clean as possible, but enjoying the process and laughing a lot of the time and doing my utmost in training. And I had a very nice training group at that time, girls my age, and we challenged each other to be the best versions and had a lot of fun together. And so it came up that in 2015, I was the alternate for the Glasgow World Championships, which was a very big succeed for me at that time, but I wanted more for sure. And in 2016, I was invited for the Olympic trials, and I also was quite good performing at that time, but I wasn't as clean, and therefore didn't make the Olympic team. Even though I was very close to the Olympic team, I also didn't. I wasn't selected for the alternate position, which was a very devastating thing for me, because I really wanted to be there, even if it would have been an alternate spot. But getting this phone call from my then head coach, I realized that hanging up on that, I was talking to my mom, and I said, well, Mom, now I'm not selected, but I really want to be the first ones being selected for the 2021 or 2020 Olympic Games. So I stepped up the game. I worked much harder. I got introduced in strength training, so not the usual strength training we have in normal training sessions, but with high conditioning and like CrossFit and everything around this. So we have also in Cologne, we have a lot of science-based trainers and coaches, and they developed a program for me. So we stepped up the game for that, and also my technique for the run-ups on vault to get the double twisting Yuchenko safe and to get pre-injury safe conditions. And with that, I qualified for 2018 World Championships, 2019 World Championships, which were in Stuttgart. This was a very, very exciting one for me because in 2019, in the first half, I did my finals. So I graduated from school, high school or school. And then in October, I became the 10th best gymnast in the world. So this was also awesome for me. And very funny also that Fabian was along this journey for quite a long time, because in 2013 he moved to Cologne to study sports, and we also trained a lot together, and I learned a lot from him and his dad. And we even prepared together for 2016, which was very funny at that time. And even after that, he helped me with a lot of things with doctors and also with physiotherapists. He had a good connection too. And then 2019, we qualified a team for the Olympic Games. We became, I guess, 9 out of 12. And then COVID happened, and it got delayed for 1 year. I even got COVID myself, which was also very challenging. So kind of diseases and all of this are something I kind of have, I don't know, a preference for. And in 2021, also it was very frustrating and sad to have all those competitions coming up to the Olympic Games and not having any crowd or people cheering on you. This was also not that easy. And also with preparation towards Olympic Games, we really had a very small circle that we were allowed to meet up with, and a lot of restrictions towards training and how many people are allowed in a gym and everything around this. So this was also very challenging. But as I promised my mom back then, 5 years ago, I won the Olympic qualification, and I got selected for the Olympic team as the first one. And I was very happy and very honored to be having this experience, the Olympic experience, also with very experienced gymnasts at that time. We had Elisabeth Seitz, Kim Buouie, and Pauline Schäfer. Only 4 gymnasts, which was also a new rule, because everyone had to do an all-around. This was also hard to prepare for, but we did quite good, and preparation went quite good until a very exact moment, like a few days before flying off to the Olympic Games, because my dad had a heart attack and he went into hospital and had a major operation surgery where I really was struggling, and he was really struggling with his life. And as I knew that he was in a hospital and I didn't know if he's going to make it, I immediately called up my head coach and said, well, I'm not going. And she said, okay, yeah, I respect your decision, but please keep in mind. And come up to me whenever you feel ready, and you can also come back later, because we had a pre-Olympic Games preparation camp in Japan. And she said, okay, tell me whenever you feel ready. And my dad luckily survived, and I straight went into hospital and talked to him, and he was saying, well, I'm fine. I'm really fine, and don't be afraid. It's everything is going to work out, and I really want you to go. And this was a very strange feeling, because I always had the dream of going to the Olympics, but at that exact moment, it was not near. I was okay. No, there's so much more important stuff than going to the Olympics and living my dream. So the health of myself and my family has to be the priority. And he said, well, I promise you everything is going to be fine. You can go. I want you to live your dream. And you don't know if it's going to work out a few years later. And also, I was not aware of going into another cycle. I was not ready at the time. And I went to the Olympics, and I didn't have the best performance because I wasn't there mentally. This was a tough one. I always called my dad before training session, after training session, because I had this terrible feeling of something that could have gone wrong, or if it was the last time I could see my dad. And this heavy feeling lead up to me not being that prepared for the Olympic Games, and not feeling that ready mentally, and not trusting myself. And coming back home, I was very devastated. I didn't go to the gym for a few months. I put on some weight because I was so frustrated and not even ready to perform at the elite level anymore. And also coming out of this strange and hard time, I had some very good one-on-one sessions with my coaches, and they believed in me. They said, okay, kiddo, let's come back to training and just have fun, just enjoy the process, enjoy moving your body, be around the people you love, be around the sports that you loved. And with that, and no pressure at all, I came back in 2022, which was awesome. We had, my first competition was the mixed cup, the first mixed cup ever in 2022 at the DTB Pokal in Stuttgart. So very nice introduction back into gymnastics competition, because it was fun. We did it with the male gymnasts, and in Stuttgart is also the environment, and also the people, the crowd. They are cheering so loud, and they are so joyful, and they are so happy to see elite gymnastics. And it gave me back this fire to really work on myself. And then we had August 2022, we had the European Championships in Munich. Also very historic, 50 years after the Olympic Games in 1972 at the same facility. And I was pretty happy to be in the team again, and leading up towards this, we had also Elisabeth Seitz, Kim Buouie, Pauline, also the same team as at the Olympic Games in 2021, with Emma Malewski, a very young gymnast at that time, 18 years old. And I was kind of good prepared until I injured myself in the last training session. I did my very last double twisting Yuchenko. I was not feeling that ready, that good at that day. I had even had some muscle pain. I was a bit in overtraining, I would say, but I didn't mind, so I did just one more double twisting Yuchenko, and then it happened. I landed not that bad, but in a so strange position that I ripped off a very huge part of my calf. So with 3 calf muscles, I had this one in the middle where I ruptured like a very big hole in my calf. You even could feel it with your finger, feeling over it. And also a very devastating moment for myself because European Championships was the qualification day was not only a team qualification but also all around. So I knew that if I could show my full potential, it could be a top 10 or even more, which I was aiming at that time. But I chose to put out some difficulty. I didn't do the double twisting Yuchenko because it was too big of a risk, and also I was very not that strong anymore mentally, also with doing beam routines, because I had to have a very kind of strange tape, I don't know, situation because I had to tape my calf as close as possible, so I couldn't even or barely could move my foot at that time. And then I slipped on balance beam. I didn't make the balance beam final, which was also on my to-do list for those European Championships. But still, we qualified fourth into the team final. And this was huge because we didn't know we had that potential to be the top 4 or even top 3 teams in Europe. And I remember being at the breakfast table in the hotel room and us 4 experienced gymnasts, me also the youngest of them the experienced ones, and then Emma. We were talking, chatting, and then got very quiet because we knew, okay, there could be something going on today. There could be a potential medal in the room. And nobody said it except Emma was like, well, guys, today we're aiming for bronze, don't we? And we were like, okay, girl, let's get down. Let's not talk about it. Let's do our stuff, because we all know in qualifications you have 4 routines, 3 ones count. And now in team final you have 3 routines. Every routine counts. There's always potential for devastating performances, as we know from the past. And leading up to the competition arena, the crowd was electricized. So it was, the ranks were full. People from all over the world, I would say, were there. It was also embedded in the European Championships, which caused that many fans from other sports were joining gymnastics. They heard, oh, the German team is doing quite well. Let's join. There were last minute tickets on discount and everything, and also family and friends. And the junior camps were held in Munich, and everyone was there. So it was, I get goosebumps every time. It was awesome. And we started on bars. We had 3 very strong bar routines. We had beam. I also did beam again, and I did a very good performance. And we had that feeling that it's going to be huge. Then Kim Buouie also announced a few days prior that she will end her career with this huge competition in home country Germany, Munich. And we were on floor. I had a fall, so this fall counted. And then she did her very last floor routine, her very last routine of her career. And the whole crowd was silenced, no other gymnasts performing. And I also get goosebumps with that one because she did so well, and it was so amazing watching her and being at her prime at the age of like 34 or 33 at the time, which was crazy, and a leading role also for younger gymnasts. And it was amazing. And we knew, okay, now there's vault. It's our last apparatus. We don't have that high of a difficulty, but we have my difficulty. We have a double twisting Yuchenko, and we could potentially show it, but it would be a high of a risk. So I was the last gymnast, and we were on vault with France. The Netherlands were on bars, and Hungary was on balance beam. And they all had some errors. So the Netherlands, they had like 2 falls. Hungary, every gymnast fell off the beam. And then also the France gymnast had a fall on vault, which was unusual. And we calculated so many times, and then our head coach just turned his neck, looked at me and said, well, I guess we have to go all in. Are you sure? Can you go all in? And I said, yes, I can go all in. Okay, you're sure? Yes, if I say so, I'm ready to perform. I will go all in. I will do the double twisting Yuchenko. So even my family, they didn't know that I was performing double twisting Yuchenko. They knew, okay, that is too much of a risk. She has half her calf ripped off. She's never going to do it. And there's this video of me. I also have it pinned on my Instagram. I was standing there at the end of the run-up, and I was like walking back and forth a few times. I had this feeling of adrenaline, but also, okay, well, maybe I could also throw up. It's kind of a big impact on me, because we have like 8,000 to 10,000 people here, most of them from Germany. I know families here. I know if I'm going to stick, or if I land this properly, we will have a medal. If I don't, we don't. So this was a very high pressure moment, and it was awesome. I knew I had pain at that time, but running up towards the table for the double twisting Yuchenko, I didn't feel anything. I was so full of adrenaline, full of energy, that I went and I did it, and I even had a stick on it, so it was like 9.4 or even better execution score. And I knew the moment I landed, I immediately threw up my hands, my arms. I saluted, and I got the scream out of my body that I never knew I was capable of. And tears immediately. I was running down. I hugged my teammates, and we were crying like babies, and it was awesome. It was the best experience I've ever had in a competition, so in a team performance. It was awesome because, we knew we had bronze, and this was also historic because Germany never had a team or even a bronze medal before in the women's gymnastics. It was huge. And I really love that feeling.
What an amazing story. And I think, I just sat and listened to that whole story of your career up until that point there, Sarah. And I think the big thing that stuck out to me was, hearing the story of you preparing for an Olympic Games. The Olympic Games gets postponed for a year. Going into 2020, you're the 10th best gymnast in the world. And I've interviewed a lot of gymnasts that were involved in the Olympics in Tokyo that got reorganized for 2021, and you kind of fall on two sides. Either it benefited you, it being postponed, or it hindered you because it meant that it slowed down that positive energy and momentum that you had. And I imagine for you, it was a little bit of that you were 10th in the world, and then all of a sudden it gets put back a year. And then, of course, no one can ever prepare for news like that about your dad and the heart attack. I guess what I'm really interested in is that so many athletes train for the perfect moment in their life, right? And that perfect moment, they imagine being the Olympic Games. And they train and put all their eggs into that one basket. What have you learned about training for that perfect moment and making the priority in your life this one competition and this one result and potentially winning a medal? Because you went to an Olympic Games having just found out that your dad has had a heart attack and potentially his life is at risk. I imagine the perspective you gained from that in that moment was that this isn't even important. But that's such a hard thing for a lot of athletes to get their head around because they train their whole life for Olympic Games. What did you learn in that experience that maybe helped you a year later in Munich at the European Championships to do that vault to win the bronze medal with a torn calf, about how there is no perfect moment, that it doesn't exist? When you get there on a competition day, nothing is ever going to be perfect. And you learn that in the harshest way with your dad having a heart attack, right? Being out there in Japan. But then again, a year later, you're stood there at the end of the vault ramp to do a double twist in Yuchenko with a torn calf to win a medal for your country in a stadium in Germany. That moment wasn't perfect at all, was it? But you were still able to do that performance. What have you learned about that and sport and competing at sport at the highest level? Because I imagine if you speak to the best athletes in every sport and the ones that go on to win Olympic gold medals, they would tell you that day wasn't perfect. In fact, actually, I had this injury and I was feeling... But you don't get to see that. You only see the perfect performance on TV.
Yeah, as you said, there's never going to be a perfect moment. You have to make the perfect moment yourself. And also being ready to adjust for certain moments is, I think, a big strength for every athlete, because as at the Olympic Games in 2024, I stood up, I had fevers, I was not feeling ready. But are you ready to perform the best you can for today's performance? And that's also, I think, something that helped me up at those times, because you can train as much as possible, but you can never estimate how it will turn out at the end. And I had a coach, not my coach, but at the national team. He always said, okay, you have to make the 100% out of today. And each day looks different. And also in preparation and training, you have those 100% every day, but they look different every day. So what can you do to get up on those 100% for today? And what is something you can improve on, even if it's the little details, even if it's your presenting skills on floor, even if it's like making your turns on floor, if it's one line on floor, if it's half of a bar routine, but can you make the utmost of your performance today? And I think that's something, those step-by-step and day-by-day decisions are the ones that keep you going along, also with very challenging moments. And I was lucky enough to have the support of everyone around me, my family, especially my dad at the time, and they all were believing in me, and there was always room for crying, I would say, for devastating moments, but also for you're not only a gymnast, you're not only like a machine, you're not only this and this result, you're everything that you've overcome over the years, everything that you put yourself or pulled yourself out of. And I was always grateful for every competition that there was, because nothing is guaranteed. And I learned it the hard way. And so still, every time I try to be the best version of myself, even if it looks different. And what I've learned over the past years is that also every preparation is different, and I learn and I experience every year like a new one. And I journal a lot. I also journal my training sessions. I journal how I feel about it. So I learned a lot about how I react to certain kind of training sessions, so that I can adjust this time hopefully earlier than before, to not go in those danger red arrow zone for too long. And yeah, I also talked a lot about talked a lot with sports psychologists, because I think the mental part is a very strong one. Also with many injuries that I've had, I got introduced into the mental training. So I rehearsed the routines, not only physically, but also mentally. That one helped me a lot to get myself into this particular situation. I also imagined myself being on a podium for this example, European Championships, rehearsing my double twisting Yuchenko. Even though I couldn't do it in training, I was doing it in my head, imagining it, and this one helped me a lot. or in every previous competition and competition afterwards, this rehearsal of routines over and over again in my head was a very, very beneficial one. I even made it as good that I could even like have a clock next to me, go on it, and then like rehearse my routine. And as I stopped, it was like the perfect time. I really had mentally rehearsed my routine and even compared to doing it physically. So it was very much synchronized with everything I've did in training, everything I did mentally, because the funny part is, as I started, I did mistakes in my head. And this was a very funny one because I catched myself doing like my beam routine and sometimes including skills I've never done before, or even falling on a skill or something like this, or drifting off. So this was also a good training for myself to be mentally prepared for everything I've done. Or everything I'm trying to do. And also with the sports psychologist, it was a very beneficial one for us as a team and also for me individually to imagine myself out there, feeling all those adrenaline, all those people looking at me. How do I feel? Does my body respond to this certain kind of pressure? We did this previous to 2019 Olympic qualification, World Championships. So we knew there was a lot of pressure among us because we had to finish under the best 12 teams to qualify for the Olympic Games. And we had a few very young gymnasts. Also me, I was 18, 19 at that time. In front of a home crowd at the World Championships. It was very high pressure. So we had so many rehearsals, doing training, also preparing mentally in the surrounding, having pressure because we had invited family members into training sessions and they were standing on the line as you did your floor routine, which was strange, but I was more... I felt more pressure seeing my mom at the sideline than doing it in front of 10,000 people because she was so close. I could see every facial expression. And also we did some kind of cold routines, which means that we, for example, balance beam, we were not allowed to have one touch on balance beam. We just did our elements on the floor and then we had to go all in and do our balance beam performance, and all those little details lead up to us doing quite great in competition and for me to have every tool possible to prepare for competitions.
You know, another thing that stuck out to me, Sarah, was that you don't sound like the type of athlete or child that would have been easily put into a box. And when I think about the systems and the structure that I mentioned within the women's side of the sport that I grew up around, I imagine they existed in lots of the countries throughout Europe. And in 2020, a lot of those took a big earthquake to the whole system and it all changed, that whole landscape. The way you explain looking outside of the box for strength and conditioning and the way you approach your sports psychology, it sounds very much like maybe some of the stuff, some of the energy that you were around with an athlete like Fabian, who again wasn't somebody that really was going to ever be put in a box and would fit in the mold. He was his own type of character and he was going to do what he wanted to do in his own way. Did people like that rub off on you? Did you always feel like you didn't really fit into the system and conform? You were your own person? And what does the system look like now in Germany? Has it changed over the past few years? It'd be really interesting to understand that because I know that you were the first gymnast ever for non-religious reasons to wear a full bodysuit, and the only type of athlete that's going to do something like that, because that is a big change from the norm, is somebody that is willing to look outside of the box and maybe not conform into a system.
So, as I mentioned right at the beginning, I was never in the box thinking person and running a system person. Also, Fabian did his part of it. I also worked with his wife from 2021 on, as I was reintroduced in gymnastics again. I had this devastating performance in Japan, and I was quite done with gymnastics. And then we were in, I don't know the English name for it, but Südtirol. It was in Italy, and he introduced his wife to me and said she's doing CrossFit and strength training and also nutritioning, and we got along quite well. And onto that, we worked together for the past 4 years, and it's worked wonders. And with me being in a system, I was never even close into a system, because normally for gymnasts or elite gymnasts, they want us to go into like sports orientated schools, and also I don't know the English term for it, but where different athletes like do live together, but not at home anymore. I don't know the English word. I didn't do that. I lived at my parents'. I even went to a normal school. I did my graduation like normally. And it was quite hard, because I always did things differently, and my head coach wasn't that happy about it. I even had some competitions leading up, and I was feeling that my body wasn't ready. I was feeling ill. I wasn't feeling ready. So I decided on myself that I wasn't going to do those competitions. And she was going feral, because she was like, well, you're not allowed to like go your own way. It's I do say that you do this and this and this competition, and if you don't do it, like, you're going out of the system, you're not a gymnast of a national team anymore, and stuff like that. So I did it anyways. I knew what was best for me at the time. I knew that I had this dream, and I will make it happen somehow. Also, I live in Cologne, and we are not like national training center or some of a kind. This is like Stuttgart, Frankfurt, and Chemnitz. And I decided that I wanted to stay here, even though I don't have the best preparation, I don't have the best gym, because, as I said, I am at the German Sports University, and I really do have training alongside the students having class. So they are trying to learn a back handspring, and I'm over there on the floor doing my floor routine. Or I even say, well, guys, can you stop for a second? I want to try my floor routine. Or even vault is a very funny one, because sometimes the class were so early, I really had to run up in a gym like at 7 a.m. in the morning, and had to have vault with my double twisting Yuchenko preparation before 8 a.m. because then class starts and I can't do vault anymore. So I did everything possible to make my dream happen, and don't fit into a box. I could have had it easier, I would say, but I didn't want to. And I also, for many reasons, didn't go into the army. So this is also something that's financially beneficial for you, to go into the army, but it was paired with moving clubs. So I had to go to a different club, and I wasn't ready for that. I didn't want to, and I didn't want to join the army for many reasons. And so I was on myself with my own system, and I built up my own expert team. With everything I said, I had my nutritionist, I had my strength and conditioning coach, I had my sports psychologist, I had those few physiotherapists that were the best ones I could have had at that time. I had my own doctors that were also thinking outside the box, because I was never the person that said, well, I do have pain, give me the pills and I will go along. I really wanted to understand, okay, where's this pain coming from? Can I adjust certain different things around like nutritioning or strength training to prevent my injuries or to deal with those? and I didn't do surgeries sometimes if it still was needed for my foot, because I then went to a physiotherapist who said, okay, well, your foot is inflamed because you're training badly on it. You have to adjust this and this and this. So I do prefer to go a harder or much unique way to get to my results, rather than just do surgery or everything like this. And this was also sometimes kind of hard for my head coach, because I was very stubborn on that. And now we have a very nice system. We are also not, or we don't have to be at one place in Germany. We are very much like all over Germany, but it's more likely that gymnasts that are at an elite level will join other athletes at an elite level at other clubs. I didn't do so. I was every time I was the single one from western part of Germany, and I'm still the only one from western part of Germany that is in senior national team. Now we have some younger gymnasts coming up, but still. And for now, we have a system that every gymnast tries, like I did, to have her own expert team. So building up an own expert team at your home club, to have a physiotherapist, psychologist, and everything around that fixed for yourself, so that you are in the middle, you are the manager of your own team, and that the team members of your own expert team are also communicating with each other. So I do have an injury and I go to my doctors. My doctor says, well, you need da 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 da. And then he goes, okay, I talk to your physiotherapist. The physiotherapist knows from my doctor what is the issue, what can I do, what do we need to improve on. And also I do mention it at my nutritionist and my strength coach, and she says, okay, well, I get along with your physiotherapist, let's have a chat on that, and then make a plan happen. And also with that, we have to have monthly checkups with the national team coach, with the head coach, also with the medical team there. And the communication just got better over the years, and got more fitted towards the individual gymnast rather than a whole team. So this has really much improved on. And still there are different paths. Some girls are joining the army, some not. I did not, and I studied. Some gymnasts didn't study, they just went to the army, or they are still in school. So it's pretty much different. But what's fixed is that we have 1 week a month where we come together to train in Frankfurt. So this is like in the middle of Germany, where we can come together, and we have everything we need at place. And then we do our training camps, and then we hopefully have the perfect team ready for the next competitions.
That's really interesting, Sarah, because over the past couple of years, I've had the idea that I believe particularly women's gymnastics more than men's, because I think there's more money involved in women's gymnastics, is going to steer towards individuals having their own team. And that's more commonplace in a sport like tennis or maybe golf. But I think gymnastics is going to go in that direction. And you see that with athletes like Ellie Black bringing coaches over to Canada to work with her individually. And because gymnastics is an individual sport, even though we have team setups, I think as female athletes start to get older and compete later into their 20s, maybe early 30s, and they're in a position to make those decisions, I think it's going to go in that direction. I think the top athletes, particularly if, let's say, yourself, for example, you might be the top athlete and the only athlete in one gymnastics club or facility, I think you're going to be in a situation where the best course is to build your own team around you rather than rely on the national team. How do you fund that, Sarah, at the moment? Is that funded through government funding or funding through German gymnastics? Is it done yourself? Do you have sponsors? How does that work? Because, I'd be really interested to know that.
The only thing you mentioned that there's a lot of money in the women's gymnastics. It is not.
Okay.
So you asked how I fund it. I do fund it all by myself, also with sponsors. I also have great connections here and there, and I also have my home gym connections, very much expert team that is funded by the home club, I would say. But it evens out, so there's no beneficial financial thing at the end of the month, at the end of the year. So I pretty much even out every cost that I have, or sometimes go down a little bit. But to be fair, it's nothing that I can live from. So
it's interesting.
not merely something that I can like put aside for worst days, something like this. It evens out, and I still decided to go my own way, because I wanted to have it like this, and I wanted to have my own expert team. I wanted to have my own career, live up to my full potential. And still, it's not an easy one. You have to have your elbows out. You have to fight for what you think is right. And I think we are very much improving on that. So the expert team has gotten so much better over the years for the national team. The girls are having, I think, everything they need, and also the mental part, the psychology part is very much improving, which I find very good. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, maybe what I mean, Sarah, is that, you know, when you watch the Olympics on TV, people love gymnastics. People love women's gymnastics in particular. And maybe what I'm saying is that there is money in women's gymnastics, but it doesn't go to the female athletes. And we're maybe seeing that a little bit with what's going on in the US college system, and just how many people are interested in women's gymnastics over in America, but the fact that those athletes were not paid any of that money for a very long time, and there are lots of very expensive lawsuits going on right now to give them some of that money that they were, you know, rightfully earned by bringing in the viewers and the ticket sales. And maybe what I'm asking is, where is that money going? And maybe we need to figure out where that money is being funneled into, and trying to spread that out to the actual athletes. And maybe in the future, as we move towards a more online landscape, in some ways, people will come in like they have in other sports. The money will come, the competitions will be there. There'll be different types of World Cup circuits where maybe athletes can make real money, and then they can build their own teams. But I certainly feel like from the outside, that is the direction people are going into. And at the moment, it's maybe for only the select few that can either afford to do that or are prepared to do that and take that risk financially. But it's really interesting to hear that, because it's a different approach to the approach you would typically have had in the past, in that you rely solely on the national team setup, and they provide the physios, the psychologists, and nutritionists, and sometimes they don't even provide those people in those expertise in those positions. Now you're going, this is what I need. My goal is to go to the Olympic Games. I'm going to have to go and find these people myself. And it strikes me that you're somebody that was always going to go and do that. Sarah, to finish up, I mean, this is honestly one of the most incredible stories I've heard in terms of challenges and setbacks, and, you know, somebody that's still dealing with that challenge right now. What have you learned about life, Sarah? I know you're still very young and you've got a lot of life and a lot of gymnastics years hopefully ahead of you. But what have you learned? Because these things that you've been dealing with, you know, gymnastics is the vehicle you've chose to express yourself, but actually you're just learning about life. What are the big things you've taken away from the last few years? I know, you know, it's still early days with what you're dealing with, and this only happened last year in many ways, but are there any big things that you feel like you've learned in the last couple of years that are going to serve you well as you go into the next chapter?
For sure that health is the most important thing for me, and also that I don't have to fit into a box. I go my unique own way, and I'm straight right at the moment I am in my progress. I want to emphasize on that I don't want to too much deal with comparison with every gymnast or people around me, because they are not on my own journey, and I still have to remind myself over and over again that I'm on my journey and my journey looks different. Still, I have many self-doubts that I am really working on, and I think I'm improving day by day. And also the mental part is a very huge one that I very much underestimated for a long time, not with the sport psychology part, but with everything a gymnast and non-gymnasts are dealing with. You have to have all the pressure as an athlete for academic, financial, and everything around. So your head has to be kind of free, even though it cannot be at all the times. But it helps, and it also helps to, or for me, it helped to have this kind of dark time to develop a new kind of personality and identity, because I very much was bonded to me being a gymnast, because I was for 20 plus years now. And I'm still on the journey for personal growth and getting to know myself even better and getting to know what I can give back, not only as a gymnast, as a role model, but also like for skills or something like mentally tricks, tips. This is also something I really enjoy, helping young gymnasts, young people to develop themselves, their identity, and strengthen their strengths rather than focusing on their weakness. Still something I have to learn, and something my journey looks like right now.
And what are your hopes for the future moving forwards now, Sarah? You know, there's an Olympic Games in LA in 2028. You know, for you, is it about trying to just get back to being healthy and just enjoying the process of life, let alone gymnastics? And do you still have hopes of competing at a high level in the sport as we go into the future?
To be honest, I really have to leave it open, because I don't know how my body's adjusting in the next few months and years. And also, I know there's the pressure of reassuring your spot in the national team. And I don't want to have too much pressure on myself for this one, because I know I proved myself. I know I can be really proud of my career for now, and I really don't have to show off or even prove other people that I'm worthy, that everything I do is just worthy because I do my results in gymnastics. I want to have a long-lasting, beneficial, like, standing for not only gymnastics but everything that evolves around gymnastics, and personal growth, and mental health also, and physical health. And I don't want to put too much pressure on it. I'm embracing the journey. I'm grateful for the journey, also for my body and for the steps I'm improving on. And with that, I'm really sorry. I really have to leave it open, but I'm very happy that things are quite going their way, step by step.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. Honestly, it's been remarkable, and I think you're an incredibly resilient and strong young woman, and I'm sure if you want to, and the door is open for you to compete in gymnastics again, I have no doubts that you can get there if you want to, having been through everything that you've been through. So, most importantly, I think I'd probably say that there are no rules to life. And when we're kids, we kind of think that all the adults know what they're doing. And then you become an adult and you go, oh, you had no idea what you were doing. And we're still making the rules up as we go along. And I think remembering that sometimes helps you take the pressure off and realize, I can, if I want to do it, then I can do it, but there's no pressure. It's my own journey. I'm doing my own thing, and it sounds like you do that already, and I'm just looking forward to following your journey now. I mean, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much again. Where can people maybe follow your story now? Sarah, is Instagram the best place to find you?
Instagram for sure, and I'm really open to share my stories very soon. I'm also working on that one, maybe through a podcast or vlogs or something like this. But I really want to share my story, and I really want to, have a long-lasting impression of everything that evolves around gymnastics, helping people. So yeah, maybe.
Well, if you have a passion for that, yeah, Sarah, if you have a passion for that and you're thinking about maybe doing vlogs, I don't know any other like female elite gymnasts that are really doing that. That would be great. I think, there's certainly the market out there for it. And if it also is a podcast, you're incredibly well spoken. So I didn't have to do much today in this podcast. I could just sit back and listen, which was great for me. I will. If you get a podcast going and you have guests, I will quite happily come on and be one of your guests. So thank you very much.
So you're set.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow your career closely now. And thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.